Commander Zefkar's mandibles clicked in barely contained derision as he watched the small human female examine his pride and joy. The Crimson Talon, a Vorthak heavy cruiser that had dominated 3 star systems before sustaining critical damage in the recent engagement with the hegemony forces. "This is your chief engineer?" Zefkar's translator rendered his skepticism perfectly, each word dripping with contempt. "This tiny creature?" Captain Martinez of the Terran Engineering Corps kept her expression neutral, though her jaw tightened. "Slightly. Commander, meet Chief Engineer Sarah Chen. She's here to assess your ship's damage and provide repair estimates." Sarah stepped forward, her magnetic boots clanking against the deck plating. At barely 5 feet tall, she looked almost comical next to the 8-foot Vorthak commander, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the harsh lighting of the hangar bay. His 4 arms gestured dismissively at her approach. "My ship requires the finest engineers in the galaxy," Zefkar rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. "The Crimson Talon is a masterwork of Vorthak engineering, built with technologies your species could not comprehend if given 1,000 cycles. What could this child possibly understand about quantum flux manifolds or dark matter containment? Matrices?" Sarah's eyes never left the damaged sections visible through the hangar's viewing ports. Massive gashes ran along the ship's hull, exposing twisted metal and sparking conduits. The main engine housing showed signs of complete structural failure, and the weapon arrays hung at awkward angles, clearly beyond conventional repair. "Your quantum manifolds are operating at 63% efficiency," Sarah said quietly, pulling out a handheld scanner. "The harmonic resonance in your dark matter chambers is destabilizing because someone," she glanced pointedly at Zefkar, "tried to override the safety protocols during combat. And unless I'm mistaken, your primary fusion core is currently held together by emergency force fields and sheer luck." Zefkar's secondary arms twitched, a sign of surprise among his species. "How could you possibly know?" "Because I can hear it," Sarah interrupted, tilting her head slightly. "That whistle in the background? That's your magnetic containment, struggling to maintain cohesion. You've got maybe 18 hours before cascade failure." The Vorthak commander's confidence wavered for the first time. His ship's engineers had given him a similar time frame, but they'd run extensive diagnostics. This human had simply listened. "Even if your assessment is accurate," Zefkar recovered, puffing out his thorax, "the repairs would take my best. Engineers 3 standard months. The Crimson Talon cannot be rushed. She is a work of art, not some crude human construction vessel that can be welded back together with scrap metal." Sarah finally looked directly at him, and Zefkar was struck by the intensity in her brown eyes. "Commander, with respect, your ship isn't art, it's engineering. And engineering has rules. Give me 24 hours. 24 hours. Zefkar's laugh was like rocks tumbling down a cliff. "Impossible. You would need to replace the entire engine assembly, rebuild the weapon systems, and restructure half the hull. Even with your primitive human stubbornness, such a task would require a day," Sarah repeated firmly. "But I'll need your engineering crew to follow my instructions exactly, without question." "This is madness," Zefkar protested to Captain Martinez. "I will not allow this amateur to—" "Commander," Martinez interrupted. "Chief Chen rebuilt a Dreadnought's hyperdrive core in 6 hours during the siege of Kepler Station. She reverse-engineered Zelani shield technology in 3 days when our xenoarchaeology team couldn't crack it in 6 months. If she says 24 hours, I'd bet my commission on it." Zefkar's 4 eyes studied the human engineer more carefully. There was something in her posture, a quiet confidence that reminded him of his own ship's AI when it calculated firing solutions. Absolute certainty based on perfect information. "Very well," he said finally. "But when you fail, human, the responsibility for my ship's destruction will rest on your shoulders." Sarah was already walking toward the Crimson Talon's boarding ramp. "Fair enough. But Commander, you might want to clear your schedule for tomorrow. You're going to want to see this." The next 18 hours became a blur of activity that left Zefkar's engineering crew stunned and exhausted. Sarah worked with a precision that bordered on the supernatural, directing repairs with an understanding of Vorthak technology that seemed impossible for an outsider. She rerouted power systems through pathways that Vorthak engineers had never considered, using human-developed adaptive algorithms to optimize efficiency beyond original specifications. When the quantum manifolds proved too damaged to repair, conventionally, she jury-rigged a solution using spare parts from 3 different ship classes, somehow making them work in perfect harmony. But it was her approach to the engine core that truly amazed Zefkar's crew. Instead of replacing the massive fusion assembly as expected, Sarah redesigned the entire propulsion system around the existing damage, turning what seemed like fatal flaws into integral components of a new, more efficient design. "How does she know where every conduit leads?" whispered Thengor, Zefkar's chief engineer, watching Sarah crawl through maintenance shafts that even the ship's original builders would have found confusing. "She studies the resonance patterns," observed another engineer. "She listens to the ship itself." As the 24th hour approached, Zefkar stood in his rebuilt command center, staring at displays that showed impossible readings. Every system was not just functional, it was performing better than when the ship had first left the shipyards. Sarah emerged from the engine room, her coveralls stained with exotic lubricants and her hair disheveled, but wearing a satisfied smile. "Commander, your ship is ready for testing." Zefkar activated the main engines, expecting perhaps basic functionality. Instead, the Crimson Talon hummed with power he'd never felt before. The quantum manifolds operated at 112% efficiency, something his species engineers had claimed was theoretically impossible. "This is..." Zefkar's voice trailed off as he watched his weapon systems come online with targeting precision that exceeded military specifications. "Engineering," Sarah finished quietly. "Your ship is beautiful, Commander, but beauty and function aren't mutually exclusive. Sometimes you just need to listen to what the machine is trying to tell you." Zefkar turned to face the small human who had accomplished what he'd thought impossible. His mandibles clicked once, slowly, the Vorthak equivalent of a respectful, "Oh." "Chief Engineer Chen," he said formally, "the Vorthak Fleet Command would consider it an honor if you would accept a position as our senior technological advisor." Sarah grinned, already packing her tools. "Thanks, but I've got 17 more ships waiting for repairs back at Terra Station. Besides," she paused at the airlock, "I have a feeling the galaxy's going to need every engineer it can get in the coming months." As the Crimson Talon powered up its newly optimized engines, Zefkar watched the human shuttle depart with something approaching reverence. He'd learned something profound in the past day. Never underestimate a species that could look at the impossible and see it simply as an engineering problem waiting to be solved. In the depths of space, the rebuilt warship's engines sang with perfect harmony, a testament to the day a human engineer proved that sometimes the greatest strength wasn't size or technology. It was the willingness to listen, adapt, and rebuild the world one impossible repair at a time.